Welcome back for another dive into the Bangtan Universe wormhole. This video is part of our Yet to Come series, in which we make predictions about the next era of the BU. It's also a continuation of the theory we began in our last video, which was called The Cat's Revenge. We believe the cat will use a wormhole to separate our 7 heroes across time, space, and alternate universes. In this video, we'll explain our theories about how the 7 friends will break out of their separate traps and reunite with each other. But before we dive in, please take a moment to click the like button, subscribe to our channel, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss out on future updates. Now let's get started. The Japanese singles are a great source of clues for the past and future BU, and we found lots of hints about the jailbreak in 3 Japanese MVs, together with their associated singles and even their behind-the-scenes films. We'll pick up where we left off last time with the MV for the Japanese single Film Out. We'll start with this behind-the-scenes clip of Jin flat out telling us that the MV contains hints of a larger story, and even telling us where to look for those clues. When we take Jin's advice, we find one case where all of the group except the member the camera is focusing on is frozen in time. The member that's still moving is Namjoon. So if our theory about the cat's revenge is correct, then Film Out gives us proof that Namjoon will be separated from his friends by time. From his point of view, they're all frozen. The hourglass has stopped running, but if we continue watching the scene, we'll see them unfreeze and come into sync with Namjoon. He's escaped the cat's trap. Now let's take a look at the MV for Lights. Again, we'll start with a hint from the behind the scenes video. This time RM is our spoiler king. Since this MV was filmed in 2019, older can't mean the map of the Soul era, and it probably means something older than the Love Yourself era. We can also probably rule out the Wings era because it just has a very distinctive feel that Lights doesn't have. So what's left? The HYYH and School eras. And Lights does feel a bit like an HYYH era MV. It seems to be telling us a story, but with some of the pieces missing, others repeated with changes, and no clear chronological order. So that seems to be what RM is hinting about. And of course, the HYYH era was when the BU kicked into high gear. Lights isn't certified BU canon, but RM seems to be hinting that Lights contains canon material. In fact, Lights might even be teasing us the way the HYYH era did by showing us hints of things to come and making us guess what the hints are leading up to. With that in mind, let's see what the Lights MV might tell us about how our heroes are trapped and how they might contact and rescue each other. First, we see that just like in Film Out, both Jungkook and Seokjin are totally alone in the same place. In Lights, it's this theater, and in Film Out, it's this side of a pair of mirrored rooms. We can tell that Jungkook has moved to Seokjin's side because the pillar is on the right side when he's facing the window. When he was on the other side with the rest of the guys, the pillar is on the left side. So it's like they've switched positions, kind of like the chessboard that you see in front of Taehyung. And by the way, if anyone out there is a chess fan or knows a chess fan who might be ARMY or might become ARMY if you give them the right incentive, please let us know, because we think these chessboards are really important, but neither of us is particularly good at chess. We could use some help here. So again, please give us feedback on that. Also notice Jungkook's expression when he's alone in Lights. This is how he might have looked at the end of Notes 2 when he walked away from the others, blaming and hating them. But when Taehyung and Jimin open the door and he sees them, he realizes the truth. These are his friends. Now notice that it was Taehyung who actually found Jungkook, and Jimin joined them. This is totally in line with BU canon, since Taeyong's dream visions have allowed him to predict events and find people in ways no one else could. That means he'd have the best chance of finding Jungkook. But in Lights, he, Jimin, and Jungkook all get frozen in time as they try to connect, and it's Jimin who finally breaks the cycle and sets all three of them free. Incidentally, Jimin is the only one in this scene who's not frozen, meaning he's the only one who sees Seokjin. It's interesting to think about how his character might have grown since he faced his fears in the Arboretum, and now he's gained an ability the others don't have. He'll get to be their rescuer instead of vice versa. Moving on, another group who seem frozen in time in Lights are Namjoon, Yoongi, and Hosik. But we need to take a closer look at their situation because there's more hidden in here. This is the only scene in which the trio are frozen together, and it happens when Seokjin is looking at them. But we know from Film Out that he's going to spend a lot of time separated from all his friends, and in Lights he's alone in the theater at one point. So it's a little odd to find him watching these three other members who are together in time. It's also odd to find these three together because in another part of the Lights MV, Yoongi and Hosik are frozen together without Namjoon. But then he comes along and frees them. So it looks like Namjoon is alone at some point, but then he finds Yoongi and Hosik and joins and frees them at the same time. Then perhaps Seokjin sees them but can't connect with them yet. But we can still dig even deeper. In Film Out, Yoongi was alone in the Red Desert before Hosik joined him, and in Lights there are scenes in which he's either frozen while everyone else is moving, or else he's physically separated from them. So we theorize that Yoongi will be separated from the group in both time and space, and for all we know, he could also be in an alternate universe. Then when Hosik finds him, the two of them will be trapped together until Namjoon finds them and breaks them out. But hang on, because we haven't said anything yet about how the friends find and rescue each other. To speculate on that, we need to study the lyrics to Lights. We'll start with a passage that Jin sings. But I have a feeling that I can still save somebody. I can hear your voice. Time stops in the midst of all this noise. I connect with you through sound. These lyrics match this clip from Film Out almost perfectly, and they suggest that the first way the friends connect to each other when time stops is through sound. With that in mind, notice Jungkook's reaction when Seokjin turns the hourglass over. He stares at Seokjin, then at the hourglass on his table, and he realizes they're out of sync. Jungkook notices the time difference. And when it happens in Film Out, Jin sings to his friends on the other side of the window, I feel you with every burst of pain. So we theorize that the friends will begin to find and save each other after hearing each other's voices, which makes perfect sense for vocal artists, doesn't it? And it even ties back to those walkie-talkies from the K-drama Signal. Now, we're not saying the BU characters will use walkie-talkies, but we do think they'll use communication technology to carry their voices across space and time. And guess what other form of communication technology shows up surprisingly often in BTS material? Landline phones. In fact, the photo shoot for 3D included 3 separate pictures of a payphone, and 2 of those pictures don't even have people in them. The moment ARMY saw this phone, they started speculating like crazy. They knew it was a hint about something. We can't be sure how landline phones might carry the friends' voices across time and space, but remember this. The cat isn't the only supernatural entity involved in the BU. Something else contacted Seokjin when he first began to time travel, and all he heard was a voice. Couldn't an entity that manifests as a voice manipulate other voices? Now let's look at these lyrics from Lights. When I close my eyes in the midst of the darkness, your light, whoa, it'll light up a path for me. So assuming the lyrics for Lights really are a guide to the future BU, after the friends hear each other's voices, they'll discover that they can see each other's quote-unquote lights. We do see lights traveling to and from members, and not just in the Lights MV. Here are a few of many other examples. There's this VCR from the Love Yourself era, this VCR from the Map of the Soul 1 concert, and Stay Gold, the third Japanese MV that we'll be talking about in this video. Just like Film Out and Lights, Stay Gold separates the 7 friends. In fact, it focuses on their separation a lot more than the other 2 MVs, and it shows just how miserable they are when they're alone. Then it brings them back together with a trail of magic sparks, just like the ones Taehyung created in the Map of the Soul 1 video. And hey look, here in the Stay Gold video, he's creating sparks again. Now let's let our imagination run wild for a second. These sparks could represent his dreams and visions, in which case they might show that he's found a way to transmit them to others. Alternately, Taehyung might have developed an entirely new ability. Remember the superhero photo shoot we mentioned in the Cat's Revenge video? Taehyung's superpower was called Messenger of Happiness, and that's what these sparks do, isn't it? They give happiness and hope to people who see them. In Stay Gold, they also lead the friends out of their various prisons and into a spring day. In fact, Taehyung's sparks literally break Namjoon out of jail. Is it any wonder that this VCR from the Permission to Dance tour shows Taehyung with the paperclip that helps him and his friends escape? But just to be clear, other BTS members are shown communicating with Light too. Let's look at a couple of VCRs from the Love Yourself era. Here's Namjoon communicating with Jimin, and here's Jungkook communicating with Hoseok. Watch what happens after Hoseok notices that Jungkook is communicating with him. Jungkook sends a different kind of message, something longer, and he follows it up with a whole fleet of messages. Based on the details of Film Out and Lights, we can speculate that the friends will find each other 1 or 2 at a time. It's also possible that each pair or group will find each other through their own different kinds of connecting. Maybe the message of this VCR with Jungkook and Hoseok is that after 2 or more friends establish their initial connection, they'll learn how to send longer messages. Then eventually they'll figure out how to reach each other physically. So let's put all these ideas together in order as best we can and come up with a detailed plan of how the friends could accomplish their jailbreak. Their first connection will come through sound and might involve landline phones. Let's suppose, for instance, that Yoongi finds a piano and sits down to play. He'll probably play the piece that means so much to the BU, the one that saves Seokjin. We know how much power that piece has. The voice entity could make use of that power here to connect him to Hoseok. Let's say that Yoongi's piano is near a landline phone and its receiver is off the hook. The music will travel naturally through the phone line, but where will it end up? Well, maybe Hoseok is sitting next to an identical phone in another time and place, and his phone is off the hook too. The voice entity might be able to link the 2 phones. In fact, they might even be the same phone. Remember Signal, the K-drama we discussed in the Cat's Revenge video? In that video, we told you the basic plot of Signal, that a detective finds out that an old walkie-talkie lets him talk to another detective who's 15 years in the past. In this video, we'll add that both detectives are using the same walkie-talkie. It belonged to the guy living in the past, and the guy in the present found it in the trash and began receiving communications from the guy in the past. And like we said before, Signal is a significant, though unexplored, source of BU content. So it's very possible that Yoongi and Hoseok could be using that phone the way the detectives in Signal use that walkie-talkie. They could be communicating from different points in time, or maybe in space, or maybe alternate universes, maybe all 3. And maybe that voice entity could boost Yoongi and Hosek's signal through the wormhole. Then, after their initial contact, maybe the voice could boost Hosek himself through the wormhole to reach Yoongi. Or maybe, since the real world Hobie is our sunshine, he could travel to Yoongi through light, a beam of light perhaps. That last bit's far-fetched, but we're pretty sure about the other. Either way, we know that once these two are reunited, they'll still be frozen in time from everyone else's point of view until Namjoon comes along. Now, we don't know how he'll free them, but it's easy to imagine Kim Namjoon, even the fictional one, figuring out how to do it. The BU Namjoon has proved his detective abilities in Notes 2, and in another fictional universe, that Namjoon was a literal detective. I'm talking about the BTS World game, which actually does have a good bit of BU content, so we'll delve into that eventually. For now, let's move on to the younger members. We've already explained how Jimin, Taehyung, and Jungkook might find each other. Taehyung could send a message of hope to Jungkook, pulling him out of whatever limbo the cat has thrown him into, but then they'll both be frozen in time. Then Jimin might come along and be able to unfreeze both of them, because Jimin has probably time traveled in Notes 2. Remember, he saw his younger self in the Arboretum? After they're all unfrozen, as Light shows us, the younger trio can connect with the older trio who've been unfrozen by Namjoon. But what about Seokjin? Based on these scenes from Film Out and Lights, it seems that he could see his friends at least some of the time, but they couldn't see him, except maybe for Taehyung. And at some point, Seokjin and Jungkook switch places, as we said before. Could this desolate room and this empty theater represent the limbo Jungkook described in the epilogue to Notes 2? When Jungkook escaped, was Seokjin sucked in? Honestly, we're not sure where this is or how Seokjin got there. All we can say for sure is that his friends found him in the end, and if this is limbo, they look pretty happy in it. But we prefer to think that they got back to Songju because Songju needs them. Remember, the cat wants to destroy the world, and these 7 friends might be the only ones who can stop it. Some of the predictions in this video seem pretty reasonable from our perspective, like Yoongi and Hosek being trapped together and Jimin saving Taehyung and Jungkook. Other predictions in this video are more far-fetched, particularly the one about Hosek traveling through a wormhole in the form of a beam of light. But one thing is certain. The Japanese singles, together with their MVs and the behind-the-scenes footage, provide essential clues for predicting the future of the BU. We'll continue to use these and other creative sources in our goal of providing you with a totally unique outlook on the past and future BU. That's all for now, but be sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel so you won't miss out on future predictions, deep dives, and news about future BTS projects. Thanks, and Apabangpo.